القدوس السلام، المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر الخالق البارئ المصور الغفار القهار الوهاب الرزاق الفتاح العليم القابض الباسط الخافض الرافع المعز المذل السميع البصير الحكم العدل اللطيف الخبير الحليم العظيم الغفور الشكور العلي الكبير الحفيظ المقيت الحسيب الجليل الكريم الرقيب المجيب الواسع الحكيم الودود المجيد الباعث الشهيد الحق الوكيل القوي المتين الولي الحميد المحصي المبدئ المعيد المحيي المميت الحي القيوم الواجد الماجد الواحد الأحد الصمد القادر المقتدر المقدم المؤخر الأول الآخر الظاهر الباطن الوالي المتعالي البار التواب المنتقم العفو الرؤوف المالك الملك ذو الجلال والإكرام المقسط الجامع الغني المغني المانع الضار النافع النور الهادي البديع الباقي الوارث الرشيد الصبور.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم وما وحله. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ربي زدني علما ورزقني فهما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How are you all doing this morning? was your week? SubhanAllah, I can't believe how many names we actually did already. Alhamdulillah. You know, I always say this is an interactive class, but SubhanAllah, no one ever interacts with me. There's just sometimes so few. Can you at least hear me? SubhanAllah. Don't know if you can hear because no one is saying anything. No, Sister Fatima is saying it does not allow me to unmute. Yeah, I do put that option off, and if you want me to unmute you, I can unmute you. But I put the option off because every time someone joins, then there's a lot of interruptions because most times no one is muting themselves, so then you hear so much of background noise. Alhamdulillah, that's good. So that's the only reason why I put that off, because every time someone enters, or a lot of the sisters won't really unmute themselves, so then we get to hear everything happening in the background. And sometimes it's funny. I don't think it's in this class, but I know in some other classes, sometimes it's not disabled, the mute thing. And SubhanAllah, the sisters are talking. Sometimes the radio is on in the background. It's so funny. And sometimes they like shouting their helper. And SubhanAllah, it's really funny, but it's also like, it's sometimes nice because you see everyone is living like a real life like you. Because, you know, a lot of times, like, we tend to forget that everybody is living this sort of like the similar and same life as you. You know, they're going through the same emotions, they have the same things to deal with. And we can think that, oh, it's only me, like, you know, only I'm like all over the place and things like that. Like I'm starting to sit in this class, but there's a million things going on in the background. But SubhanAllah, it's so many people. So it's sometimes nice to do that. But yeah, that's why I don't leave that option on. And then while we're in the class, it can be disturbing, and then every time I have to keep muting. So that's the only reason. But if you do want me to unmute you, any one of you, then just put it in the comment and say, please unmute me, and I will. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are starting with the name As-Samad, which means refuge. And Surah Ikhlas, Allah Ta'ala says, Allah, the eternal refuge. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In Surah Ikhlas, those who asked about the Lord whom the Muslims worshipped were told two important things. He is Al-Ahad, the One, explained in the previous chapter, and As-Samad, the eternal refuge. Surah Al-Ikhlas thus summarizes Allah's attributes, which means that knowing that He is As-Samad is crucial. Knowing that Allah is one should lead us to the knowledge that Allah is As-Samad and all that implies for us in our daily lives. Since He is indeed one, invisible, unique, then this negates any power, self-sufficiency, or dominion outside of Him. If Allah is one in our hearts and we do not make anything equal to Him, we are reassured by being told that He is As-Samad. In the dictionary, Samad is defined as the eternal, to remain unaffected or unchanged, to intend or turn to something that is solid with no holes or emptiness inside. And the ultimate master who is obeyed, we say Sumud, from the same Arabic root Sad Mim Dal, to mean remain firm and steadfast. Imam Ghazali states that As-Samad is the one to whom one turns in need and the one who is intended in our desires. For ultimate dominion culminates in Him. Ibn al-Qayyim states that He is also the one to whom the hearts flee, both in hope and reverence. He is the one and only to whom we turn for all our needs. SubhanAllah. So As-Samad has so many definitions, and in the dictionary, Samad is defined as eternal, to remain unaffected, untainted, or unchanged, to intend or turn to something that is solid with no holes or emptiness inside, and the ultimate master who is obeyed. Indeed, the Prophet ﷺ said, by Him in whose hand is my soul, He has asked Allah by His greatest name, for which He answers when called upon, and He gives when asked. When he heard a companion making the following supplication, O Allah, I ask you by my testimony that you are Allah, there is no God but you, the one, the eternal refuge, who does not give birth and was not born, and to whom no one is equal. This supplication contains the two names mentioned in Surah Al-Ikhlas. If you know that Allah is one and As-Samad, you know that your need can only be fulfilled through Him. This is such an important point because I often say this, but I'll say it continuously all the time. But many times we forget to turn to Allah, especially when it's small needs. You know, we think we need to do it on our own. That there's certain things that we need to do on our own. We can't ask Allah because you almost feel embarrassed to ask Allah, or you feel ashamed, like This is something small, like how can I ask Allah? I need to do it myself. So we try to take control over our lives, try to take over control over so many things. But the fact is, we always need Allah for the smallest things, for the biggest things. We are nothing, and we cannot help ourselves. We cannot do anything on our own. It is always Allah who is helping us. And that's why we struggle a lot with so many things, because we try to take over Allah's job. We try to take control over only what Allah can control. So even in the small things, we're like, no, I'm gonna do it, and you'll try and you'll try. And it's especially when we have that arrogance within us. And it's normal, we're human. We all sometimes have it. And obviously that's a disease of the heart. That no, only I can do it, or I can do it. Like I don't need help from anyone. And many times we'll find that those are the things that we'll struggle with the most. Why? Because we're not asking Allah for help. And when we're trying to take on things on our own, and I always mention this hadith, they could say that Allah says that I am to my servants as He thinks of me and as He expects of me. So the way we see Allah is the way He is to us. So if we're going to think we can do it better, then Allah is going to leave us to it. And that's when things are very difficult. But as soon as you turn to Allah, when you turn to Allah, what you're showing is your helplessness, your humility, your vulnerability. And that's what Allah loves. So immediately when you ask Allah for help, when you turn to Allah, His help is going to come, and everything is going to be so much more easier. We have many needs. We have material needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs, intellectual needs, and physical needs. The name As-Samad encompasses so many meanings, which tell us that all of our needs can be fulfilled through turning to Him and living in the way that He has prescribed. There are some needs that we can verbalize, and others that remain within our hearts. There are tangible things we ask for, and sometimes we just want internal serenity. When the Prophet ﷺ and the companions migrated to Medina, they were not used to the conditions there, and many companions fell ill. They missed Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ turned to As-Samad and asked him to make Medina as beloved as Mecca, and Allah gave him that. Indeed, only As-Samad could give them that, because they were all in the same situation. They all felt sadness, and you cannot give what you do, and you cannot give what you do not have. As-Samad, on the other hand, is unshakable. We can be confident and assured because the one we are turning to is the Master, unaffected by the changes around us. Human beings, by their very nature, may not be able to fulfill every need or desire of ours, because they too rely on others, not As-Samad. He does not waver no matter the circumstances. So every need gets fulfilled by Allah As-Samad. And even in the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they turned to As-Samad for various of their needs, because only Allah can help us. Only Allah can change our conditions. And that's also something that we need to practice a lot, is turning to Allah all the time. Because a lot of the times, again, naturally as humans, it's very natural. We're still learning to turn to Allah Ta'ala, because from the time you're little, when you're a baby, you're not turning to Allah when you need anything. You're turning to your parents. So naturally, as a human, we will lean more towards turning to people for our needs rather than Allah. But humans can't help us the way Allah can. They are as helpless as us in most cases, most times. And if we turn into someone, they also need to turn to someone else. But if we turn to Allah, we can get immediate and instant help. And again, it's something that we need to remind ourselves, something that we need to implement in our lives is turning to Allah more all of the time. Because like we're saying, it's not natural to us. It's very natural to turn to somebody else. And it's often in situations where, one of the things that really grates me and is how a lot of people will say, oh yeah, in our times of difficulty, we'll know who are the real people in our life and the people who are genuine and sincere. Because what we have an expectation from those people to come and help us or do something. But subhanAllah, many times in our difficult moments and our challenging moments is the time that most people are not there. And it's not the fault of those people. It's because Allah doesn't allow them to be there for you. Because what He wants you to do is turn to Him. Because it's often only in times of great distress and difficulty that we begin to remember Him, and when there's no one else there. Because if there were a lot of people around us in our difficult moments, we would forget that Allah is there, and we would just be depending and relying on people. Even though they can only help to a certain extent in their capacity, but still we would turn to people. And so a lot of people will say this, that, oh yeah, in my difficult times, I knew who are the genuine people and who are not, but no. And those that are there, subhanAllah, it's Allah made it that they there so they can support you. And also for them, it's also for you. So sometimes we can also think that, I'm always here for this person. But that's also Allah is using you as a means of being a support to the person. Of course, people should never take advantage. If someone is taking it, if you're there for the person and every time, like, they never reciprocate anything and they have that sense of entitlement and they expect you to be there all the time, but not one time will they ask, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? They just have that entitlement that you should be there all the time. Then that is not healthy and you should distance yourself. So there's obviously a balance in everything. And we need to know boundaries, and we need to practice boundaries, but we also need to understand that sometimes Allah is using us for these people, the support of these people, and it's only a reward on our path. We're going to get the reward if we do it sincerely for the pleasure of Allah. But many times, the people that you expect to be there are not going to be there. And it's really not because they are choosing not to be there. Maybe at that time, they may be even going through something. But Allah makes it that way because he wants you to turn to him, not to rely on those people. Because again, like we're saying, people are people, they have needs as well, they rely on others, they don't have the full capability to be there for you, to give you your need, to help you. That only comes solely from Allah. So let's try to always turn to Allah in every moment, moments of need, difficulty, our moments of happiness, joy, always remembering Allah and being aware of Him and turning to Him first before anyone else. Because Allah is as-Samad, He does not waver no matter the circumstances. This is why the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to turn to Allah for all our needs, even the most minor ones. He said, you should ask Allah for all your needs, even if it is the strap of your sandal breaks. The Prophet ﷺ also made a comprehensive supplication where he asked for both this life and the next. O Allah, set right for me my religion, which is the safeguard of my affairs, and set right for me the affairs of my world, wherein is my living, and set right for me my year after, to which is my return, and make the life for me a source of abundance for every good, and make my death a source of comfort for me, protecting me against every evil. When Ibn Abbas, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, was young, the Prophet ﷺ taught him the meaning of living with Allah as-Samad. He said to him, young man, I will teach you some words. Be mindful of Allah and He will protect you. Be mindful of Allah and you will find Him before you. If you ask from Allah. If you seek help from Allah. Know that if the nations gather together to benefit you, they will not benefit you unless Allah has decreed it for you. And if the nations gather together to harm you, they will not harm you unless Allah has decreed it for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. One who has certainty in as-Samad loves the reality of the above hadith. When we know that He is as-Samad, we turn to Him for all our needs and know that there is truly no power outside of Him. Striving. Turning to Allah for all our needs does not negate the need to strive and using the physical means around us. Turning to as-Samad means recognizing where all these physical means come from and that they can only work with the help of Allah. When Musa ﷺ felt that he could not go to Fir'aun because he was not eloquent as his brother Harun ﷺ, he went to Allah first and said, and appoint for me a minister from my family, Harun, my brother. Increase through him my strength and let him share my task. He turned to as-Samad to provide for him the means that he would need. So this is another really important point. Turning to Allah doesn't mean that we also just sit back and we ask Allah and then we do nothing about our situation. It means that we try to take action, but even the action that we take is obviously from Allah. The means is from Allah. So there's a story that I heard of someone who was, I think he was drowning. I don't, honestly, I don't remember the story properly, but I don't know if the person was drowning or something was happening, and they kept on asking, God. It's like, God, like, come and save me, like, come save me, come save me. And every time God was sending something, and this person was like, oh no, I asked, like, so when, I don't know if it was like a parachute or something like that, that came, this person was like, no, I asked God, so I'm waiting for God to save me. So whenever anything was trying to come, nothing came. And then eventually nothing happened. And I don't know, it's probably like, it's just probably a story that's not real, but just the lesson in it. And then the person probably drowned, and then afterwards, whatever happened, then he asked God, like, I was asking for your help, why didn't you help me? And God said to him, but I kept sending something to help you, and you kept rejecting it and saying no. So sometimes we shouldn't be so blind to the means when we're asking Allah for anything, for our needs, for help, and He's sending it in a way. We need to realize that this is from Allah, this is the sign, this is what He's sending, and be grateful and not just, I don't know what you're expecting, because we live in the world. So we're going to get worldly, we're not going to get miraculous things to help us, and just where we just come out of the situation. So so we need to always realize that when we're asking Allah, we need to be aware. We need to be aware of when His help comes. Sometimes we're asking for help, and then maybe you're going through something really challenging. It can be maybe a divorce or some sort of grief. Maybe someone passed away, and it's really heavy on your heart. You lost someone special, something like that. And what happens is, like, you asking Allah for help, because a lot of times what we expect is like, oh, we're asking Allah for help and we're asking for ease, and we just expect it to go away altogether, like it didn't exist, and we feel fine. But sometimes we need to learn from all of the things. There's lessons, there's so much to process. We don't just get through it and one day wake up with being fine in that way. Obviously, for Allah, it's possible. But what happens is, you're going through this challenging time mentally and emotionally, you're not okay. And Allah starts guiding you. You're asking Allah for help, and He starts leading you and guiding you to therapists. You keep coming across a certain therapist or a few, and you're just like, no, but I'm asking Allah for help, so I don't need the therapist. But that could be the help that Allah is trying to give you. That, okay, here's the therapist, this, like, through me, this is the means this is going to help you. So we need to be aware. We need to understand that Allah sends help in various ways, and we just need to be open to it, open to receive it, open to see it as well. And just like that, like, Musa alayhi salam didn't expect that, because he knew he was not eloquent. So he asked for help, but he didn't even expect that, oh, maybe just this time. And Allah could have made it that, like, he would become eloquent in those moments. But what he asked for was his brother Harun to be able to assist him. And then Allah made it that way for him. So that also shows us sometimes we should also not feel like everything is on us. Sometimes we do need external help, you know. And that's because we humans, we need people in our life, but sometimes we turn to Allah and Allah will put the right people in those moments, in those times for you. Living with this name. Number one, go to Allah with every need, rely only on Him, knowing that He is unshakable, that He is eternal, and that He is the refuge, should give us confidence in Him and help us to turn to Him for all our needs. And the beauty part is, we may not be in a habit of turning to Allah all the time. So what we have to start with is, implementing it and practicing it and becoming in that habit. But subhanAllah, the beauty part and the amazing part is that you may not have, here it says that we should have the confidence, and it should give us the confidence, if we turn to Him, it should give us the confidence in Him, because only He can fulfill our needs. And like we're saying, it's not something that we used to. So we know we may not have the confidence, because there's always going to be shaitan there to put the doubt in our mind that, oh yeah, maybe Allah is not going to help you, Allah is not going to answer this for you, He's not going to give you this. And again, it's not normal for us. Like we say, we rely more on other people. So there will be that doubt. A lot of the times we may not have the confidence, but if you keep doing it, you keep turning to Allah, and you then see that He keeps answering you, fulfilling your needs, helping you, it increases your confidence in turning in Him and turning to Him. And then naturally you just do it all the time, and you start to fully grasp that only Allah knows what's good for you. So subhanAllah, all you want is only what Allah wants for you, because now you trust Him more than you trust yourself, and you trust anything else. Number two, be a refuge for people and remind them of Allah. Allow people to turn to you and offer them your help. The Prophet ﷺ told us that the best of people are those that bring the most benefit to the rest of mankind. And that if Allah wants good for a person, then He uses him. Imam Ghazali says, the one whom Allah has appointed to be a model for His servants is fulfilling their worldly and religious duties, and who secures the needs of His creatures by His word and action. To that one, Allah bestows a share in His attribute, but the absolutely eternal is the one whom one turns to in every need, and He is Allah. May He be praised and exalted. So be a refuge for people and remind others of Allah. When people are in difficulty, when they need your help, try to be there for them. Again, like we said, boundaries. If someone keeps using you, then you also need to set that boundary and keep your distance, because they need to realize, because they also need to. And you do it with the intention that, no, I'm going to set this boundary, I'm going to keep my distance, because if I keep doing for them, they're never going to really turn to Allah, because I'm there all the time. But if I keep my distance and I don't allow them to take advantage, I do what I can, and then I keep my distance, I'm doing it so that with the intention that they turn to Allah. They realize that I don't have the capacity, I can't help them as much as Allah can help them. But we should always be a refuge for people. We should help them, especially in times of difficulty. When you're in difficulty and you help anybody in the smallest of capacity in ways that is good for you, that works for you, Allah's help will be with you for sure. And remind people of Allah. So even in those times when you're there for them, remind them of Allah. Always remind them that it's only Allah who can bring relief to them. It's only Allah who, that even if you trying, because many times we try, but you'll see a lot of people, how many times don't you feel so helpless? You'll see somebody and you really want to help them. They're going through the most, and you genuinely, sincerely want to help them, but you can only do so much. Like, you can't, they can be in pain. If someone is in physical pain, think about it. And you see them suffering, you see them, what can you do? You can't do nothing. You just look at them helpless. Because only Allah can help them. So we always remind people, and then you can only make dua. So we should always remind others of Allah and learn Allah's names. One way of being certain that Allah is As-Samad is by learning His other names and attributes. In some ways, this name becomes a gateway to understanding His other names because it contains so many meanings. When we put the effort to become close to Allah, His attributes become more apparent to us. SubhanAllah. That is what we are doing, alhamdulillah, that Allah has chosen us to do this and given us the opportunity. Alhamdulillah, that brings us to the end of As-Samad. Any questions, any reflections? Anything you would like to add? I mean, absolutely, it's definitely a lesson to ponder on for all of us, subhanAllah. It's always, and this is the purpose of these classes, is not only to just learn about the attributes of Allah and learn about Him, which, yeah, that is the main focus, but also to reflect, to reflect on our lives, on ourselves, to implement what we learn, to become better Muslims, better people overall, better to connect with Allah on a deeper level, but also to connect with others. When we reflect and we ponder and we implement what we learn and we learn about Allah, it makes us softer. So whilst our relationship with Allah strengthens and our connection to Him really deepens, it also helps us in our other relationships with those around us, because we also become more softer, more understanding, more compassionate. And subhanAllah, it's beautiful, and that is dawah as well. Because when someone is seeing that, okay, you are different now, you're so much more understanding, I can speak to you better, it inspires them, and it inspires them to be better as well. And the greatest form of dawah is our character. Bismillah. So in our tazkiyah section, we are reflecting on this hadith that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, truly in the body there is a morsel of flesh, which if it is sound, the whole body will be sound. And if it is corrupt, the whole body will be corrupt. truly it is the heart. So our heart, subhanAllah, always needs to be sound. But again, we're human, so we'll falter, and sometimes we'll be up and sometimes we'll be down. But when we learn about it and we understand it, it brings us the awareness that we have control over our nafs and our heart. Because a lot of times our nafs also has control over us because we don't really have that awareness. But when we have the awareness, we now understand what's happening. So we're quick to pick up on any diseases of the heart that we may be experiencing in that moment, whether it's envy, jealousy, arrogance, love for dunya more than the love of Allah, hatred, pride, whatever it is. And these diseases cause our hearts to be in great distress. So sometimes even we need to check ourselves, because sometimes you're just feeling uneasy. You just have this uneasy feeling. And just check your heart. Is there any trace of a disease of the heart that I'm feeling right now that's causing me to feel so uneasy? Because when our heart is sound, we'll be at peace. But when it's not, we will be uneasy because it's not our fitrah. When we're not in our natural state of being the way we were born, in our fitrah, in our essence, pure, which is pure, we tend to be more anxious, more uneasy, and it can often be from something that's happening within us that's in our heart. Whatever the diseases of the heart are so many. It's envy, jealousy, pride, arrogance, hatred, malice, more love for the dunya than for Allah. I'm trying to think. Overeating as well, excessive eating, excessive sleep, excessive laughter, following our desires, so where we just have these desires and we only follow our desires, and that can make us uneasy. It's like how they say that when you're committing a sin, you feel very uneasy. So it's the same way, because it's affecting your heart. And if your heart is your command, is your spiritual command center, it has an effect on everything else. So it will have an effect on your body. How your heart is feeling will have an effect on your mind and your body and everything. And again, it's natural. We're human, so we're sometimes going to encounter these situations. We're going to feel jealousy, envy, pride, arrogance. But we need to be aware, to catch ourselves and be like, oh yeah, why am I feeling uneasy? And we can feel it. It's like, sometimes you just hear something and then already, like, you were fine. Everything, you were at peace, everything was fine. And then you just hear something or you see something, and then now you have this uneasy feeling. And you're like, what's happening? Like I was fine all this time. Now I don't know. And then when you are awake, it will bring you that, oh, I heard this. I heard this about someone. I heard this person is going for Umrah and it made me feel uneasy because I really want to go for Umrah. So there's a tinge of jealousy or envy in my heart. But in that moment, what you do is we went through in our other classes, the cure for envy and jealousy. But in those moments, then you make a dua that for that person, that you're happy for that person. And immediately after you make a dua, and then you even make a dua that Allah takes you, you'll be perfectly fine. Or you make a dua that like, Ya Allah, I'm feeling this way. It's so unnecessary, like remove this feeling, let me be happy for the person. And then you're fine. So what happens is you become aware. So dhikr is also a very powerful cleanser because Allah says, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. So if we're feeling uneasy and we have those diseases of the heart, the dhikr of Allah will ease us. And we'll find that peace and a lot of istighfar as well. Istighfar removes the spiritual stains. So one of the beautiful things about istighfar and the salawat that we always hear is that istighfar is the cleanser. So it's the cleanser of our heart, and salawat is the perfume. So if we only, salawat does have, and if like it also helps you, it can be a form of istighfar as well. But we can't only perfume our body, or even if we're reciting any other dhikr, but we leave out istighfar. Maybe you're reciting a lot of la ilaha illallah. So we keep perfuming our body, but the sin is still there. So, or the disease of the heart is still there. So by not making the istighfar, it's the stench eventually is going to get stronger. The perfume is not going to be able to overpower it. So reciting istighfar is very important on a daily basis, at least 70 to 100 times a day. More if you can manage. And that will purify you, purifies your heart, purifies your soul, and it also aids as a protection from then having the diseases of the heart. So you'll find yourself being less envious, having less pride and arrogance, and doing less and having less of the uneasiness as well, because now it's not so often that you are afflicted with these diseases, because the istighfar is a shield for that. And one of the signs of a pure heart is loving good for others, which is why a lot of the times we struggle, because sometimes we only want good for ourselves. And contentment with Allah's decree, this is a big one, because a lot of times what happens is like, we okay that other people have it, but we like, why don't I have it? But Allah knows, and when we have that, then it's almost like we're not happy with Allah's decree. So we're questioning Allah. That is obviously a major sin. So being content with Allah's decree And again, it's normal, it's natural. You're going to feel that sometimes. So we're not here to be like, oh, you're so terrible if you do that. No, you're not. You know, you're human. Even Allah understands you. He understands you human. It's just there because everything that Allah has put in out for us, our whole purpose is just to keep turning back to Him. So every time, if you're the perfect human being, are you gonna ever appreciate Allah and be like, Allah is so amazing and anything like that? No, like it's just gonna be so mundane if you're doing everything right and whatever. So, it's all of the time that you're turning back to Allah. So you falter, you feel a certain way, and then you come back to Allah and you feel the sweetness. So you keep feeling the sweetness and you keep coming back to Allah. That's what it's about. It's always about coming back to Allah. So don't judge yourself either. It can be normal, but we just keep coming back to Allah and we keep reminding ourselves and realizing and then asking for forgiveness, and that's what Allah loves. Allah loves you more if you keep coming back to Him and turning back to Him in that, sincere moments than if you are practicing everything so perfectly, but you forgot who He really is and like the sweetness of Him. And humility and gratitude. So always showing humility and gratitude to Allah is one of the signs of pure heart. But subhanallah, so don't judge yourself. Everybody experiences this. This is not Islam is not about being perfect. Perfection is only for Allah. But Islam is about submitting to Allah. But you keep submitting to Allah. You do something that's not displeasing to Allah, no problem. Once you turn to Allah and you make tawbah and you come back to Him, He loves it. He loves you. You become closer to Him because you feel that connection with Him deeper now. So it's just for us to reflect and to understand and to be aware. More than anything is to be aware of what's happening, around us, within us, and then to catch ourselves and keep bringing ourselves back and coming back to Allah, inshallah. So, ask yourselves like today or this week, is there anything in my heart that am I holding a grudge? What's on my heart? Is there any envy, jealousy, anything that I need to work through today? And it makes it easier as you work through it. Every time you're aware of it, you're like, okay, this is what it is. And it always has an underlining, there's a root, there's an underlining cause for it. It's like we said, you want to go for Umrah, you're only upset and maybe a bit envious that the other person is going for Umrah because you really want it. If you didn't really want to go, you wouldn't care. So it's because you also want it. So in those moments, you just say, okay, like, no, I can have it and I can make dua for it, but I can be happy for this person. So you do ask yourself, where is it coming from? And how can I let it go? And you make dua, you ask Allah to help you to let it go. Because like we said, Allah is a samad. For every need we turn to Him, for everything we turn to Him, even for help. So even in this, don't ever feel like, oh, it's because it's a disease in my heart. I have to now try to tackle it on my own. So I have to control myself and I have to let it go. And we try so hard. We take so much of effort and we try so much harder if we don't have Allah. So you will always see, you can start to take note of this. A lot of the times you'll see non-Muslims, they have to work harder at a lot of things. Even when they go to therapy, they like in therapy for years and years and years. Why? Because Allah is not a factor there. And as Muslims, we don't have to work as hard as that and put in so much effort because we have Allah. So we do a chunk of the work, but Allah does the rest. And that's the beauty part about Allah and always turning to Him and always asking for help, is that we don't have to put in so much of effort and work so hard that it completely depletes us. So even when it's the diseases of your heart, you don't have to feel like, no, because it's like me, it's in my heart, and this is my own doing and things like that that I have to deal with on my own. No, you turn to Allah, Ya Allah, this is what I'm struggling with. Help me. Help me to be happy for other people. Take away these feelings, these grudges, and Allah will help you. And yeah, Allah grant us all the tawfiq and help us in every moment. Help us with whatever our struggles are, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, intellectually, psychologically, in everything, financially. And help us to reflect, to be aware, to always turn to Him, to always ask Him to implement what we learn. Ameen. Jazakallah khair for your time and for always showing up to the class. This is only a mercy from Allah that you are here because He chose you to be here. But I do encourage that if you feel like the classes are beneficial for you, share it with others, share the recording link, invite others to join the live class as well. It will be a continuous sadaqah jariyah for you, inshallah. And yeah, take care. Have a beautiful week. May Allah Ta'ala keep you all in His love, mercy, light, guidance. And may He be with you, helping you, guiding you, leading you. May He grant you all afya, barakah, khair, lutf. And inshallah, until next Thursday, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم إني أسألك حبك ومن يحبك وأمل يقربنا إلى حبك.